Hey, this is Matthew and welcome back to Nerd News Today, and it's time for another pro wrestling action figure review. And today we're taking a look at one of the greatest, if not the greatest, wrestling champion of all time, and that would be Ric Flair. Ric has had a lot of amazing action figures over the years. Jakks Pacific did a really great job with him, in fact, during their classic series, and Mattel has also been doing a really nice job too. And this Ultimate Edition seems like it's going to blow away all of the rest because I think this one is one of those figures that has really earned and deserves that Ultimate Mantle in the name. There's a lot to dissect with this figure here, but first things first, I want to let you guys know, if you're interested in picking up this figure or other pro wrestling figures, go ahead and check out BigBadToyStore.com. They've got Ultimate Editions, they have some Elites, they've got New Japan Pro Wrestling figures, and of course a whole bunch of other things. So if you guys want to check them out, go ahead and use our affiliate link in the description below for BigBadToyStore.com. Now, this version of Ric Flair represents his time from around 1988 to about 1990. And in particular, I think the most notable moment that this Robe had on screen was his match at Wrestle War against Lex Luger for that World Championship belt that you see here. At the time, Luger was also the U.S. Heavyweight Champion. I don't believe that belt was on the line of that match, and if you guys do want to check out that match, it is available to find on YouTube if you look around. I think as of the time this video has been released, it is not on Peacock's app yet. Hopefully it will be in the next few months. So the packaging is exactly like all the other Ultimate Edition packaging, and I've called it similar to a shoebox in the past, and I stand by that definition because once you cut the tabs in the back, it slides itself right open just like a shoebox. And again, similar to that, you can also put the figure right back in the packaging when you're done, which makes it extremely collector-friendly, easily the most collector-friendly Mattel figure that they've released to date. There's an enormous window display in the front that lets you see everything that's inside this figure, and oh man, is there a lot that comes with this figure. Not just the robe, the extra head sculpt, a whole bunch of hands. Really great stuff we're going to get to in another moment. On one side, you've got a photo of Ric Flair in this robe. The opposite side has the Ric Flair name in the Ultimate Edition font. And on the back of the packaging, we have a photo of Flair wearing this robe in toy form, and then immediately below it, a photo of him in the ring wearing the purple tights from that Wrestle War match against Luger. We also have a few stats, which includes his height, his hometown, his finisher, and the career highlight of just being a 16-time world champion. Because really, in that career highlight section, how much more do you need to say besides being a 16-time world champion? And because this is an Ultimate Edition figure, we've got an extra large bio in this packaging because it's a whole whopping 2 sentences, which is double the amount that we normally get on any of these Elite figures from Mattel, so that counts as a win for me. So the packaging is very, very nice. That's all great, but we're not here to see this figure like this. So let's go ahead and take our Ric Flair out of the box and get him into the ring. All right, and here's our Ric Flair now out of the packaging. You guys can see it is a really magnificent looking Ric Flair right away. His first ever Ultimate treatment, and boy does this look really good right off the bat, just initially taken out of the package. This looks so good. Let's just jump right into things, and let's talk first about that likeness. Does it look like Ric Flair? Well, we can't talk about likeness and not include his alternate head sculpt. So yeah, does this look like Ric Flair? I'm going to say that this absolutely does look like Ric Flair from every angle. 110% looks like Ric Flair, especially the head that's currently on him. That expression is just perfect. They got the nose right, and this is, again, meant to be a younger version of Ric Flair. So he's going to look a little bit different from what we've seen in other versions of him. But I think they nailed the look. They got the head just right down perfectly. And same thing, too, with this alternate head sculpt. I actually think the alternate head sculpt's got a better nose than the one that's currently on him has. The thing is, the Wooooo face, I know some folks are going to probably look at this and think it doesn't quite look like him. But you got to keep in mind, this is a very heavily contorted and almost caricature version of his face from his actual face. So it's not going to look like a perfect 10. It's not going to look like he would normally look in the ring. It's going to always look a little bit funnier because that's just the nature of that style of face. And also, shout out to the hair on this Ric Flair, too. I mean, look at these locks that he's got going on here, these bleach blonde locks. Just great. So much hair. And that's because he had that much hair in that period, too. Again, keep in mind, this is from 1990 when he wrestled Luger. If you don't believe me, go back and watch the match. You'll see that man was loaded with hair. As for the outfit, too, it's, again, a very simple outfit because we're talking about that era where there really weren't any flashy outfits that much. So Ric Flair has the purple trunks and the purple knee pads, which, by the way, are actually two-tone knee pads. That's a specialty that you really only get in these Ultimate Editions. I really like the two-tone knee pads. We also get the pink boots, which have the purple RF on the sides, and there aren't both of those. Those are just your traditional standard boots for these Ultimate Edition figures, but looks really nice because it's Flair. And beyond that, there's really nothing else to talk about the outfit besides the hands, which all of them have the tape on them, and you'll see that more in a moment. So let's jump into articulation, because that's where the Ultimate Edition figures really stand out from among the pack. So we've got a ball-jointed head that can move all over the place, and despite having this giant load of hair, it's not really hindering his movement that much. I mean, really not at all, just if you're trying to put his head backwards, but not really much other than that. He's got the butterfly joint, which means you can get one of the best knife hand chops you've ever had in a toy before. Look at how good that is. You've got ball-jointed shoulders, bicep swivel, the double-jointed elbows, full wrist articulation. We have this torso here that is meant to move around a lot, but he's very stiff out of the box. I'm not going to force it because it's very resistant, but you can see it's moving around pretty nice otherwise. We've got waist that can turn, really nice crotch piece there, great thigh articulation, double jointed knees, not much hindrance from those knee pads either. We've got ourselves boots that can move, the ankles rotate, and you got the toe flexor, which I'm always kind of indifferent towards. You know, it's cool that it's there. I don't really know if I see a purpose for it yet. I mean, I'm sure there's some poses where it's really handy, but I haven't really seen myself using it a lot. So articulation is, of course, amazing, as you guys just saw. Really cannot beat that articulation. Let's jump into accessories, and he has a bunch of them here. So we already talked about the alternate head sculpt, which is sitting right down there next to him. This Flair also includes 4 extra hands, which adds up to a total of 3 different sets of hands. So what this Ric Flair also is included with is a set of pointy fingers. So you could point to things while you're doing promos. These look really good. Oh, he's got a little schmutz in that one, but that should scratch right. Yeah, it's already scratching right out. You can see that. And more importantly, we've got a pair of horseman hands. So he can make the 4 horsemen symbol. That's really nice. That I like a lot. Really handy. Especially if you have the other characters from that too. Really nice touch there. In addition to that, we have a big gold. The big gold championship belt here. Now you guys will notice this has got the scratch logo on the top of the logo. It's not what should be there. They're never going to make another different mold of this, which is unfortunate. So, you know, that part, if you're looking for accuracy, you're not going to get, but otherwise still like one of the best belts they've made. It just looks so good. I kind of wish since this was an Ultimate, they would have maybe put Flair's name painted on at least. Like I know they can't describe it because it's a holder mold, but even just painting it would have been nice. So I'm going to go ahead and actually try and get this belt around his waist. Let's see how it looks. And more importantly, let's see if it actually closes on him. And fairly easily, yes, the clasps are connecting, and it looks like we've got ourselves a Ric Flair championship belt. And there you guys have it. That's how he looks. He's got the big gold around his waist. That's where it belongs in the 16-time World Heavyweight Champion. It's a great looking belt. You'll never hear me complain about that belt, and you'll never hear me complain about having a bunch of these, because I've already got that belt like 6 or 7 times over now, and it still looks just as good. Now let's get to the real centerpiece of this figure, and that would be the robe. And this is like one of the best robes I think they've ever made, but seeing it here in my hands is not going to do it justice. Let's actually get Rick in this thing, and I think to do that, I'm going to pull his hands out for a moment, because I think that should actually make things move a lot smoother. And yeah, we'll try on some new hands after we get this robe on him. So I think the other nice thing about the Ultimate Editions too is because they have these butterfly joints, all the clothing goes on a lot smoother because they can get their arms flexed all the way behind their backs. And that's how you want to get these things on them. So yeah, you can see this robe is already pretty much in there. I just got to make a little adjustment to his shoulder positioning, and yeah, there you go. The robe is on him. Just that simple, thanks to the Ultimate Edition articulation. So let's swap some hands. I'm going to put on a horseman hand. Let's do that. And maybe we'll put on a pointer finger, because why the heck not? And there we go. Now we're going to tie this robe, and we're going to take a closer look at him. All right, got myself a nice little square knot around there. I think one of these days we should do a video on how to actually tie these belts the right way, how to tie these robes and all the other belts you've gotten in figures lately. So that's how he looks with the robe on, and that is just an amazing looking robe. I mean, the detail on this is just gorgeous. I'm going to actually extend his arms out so you can see all the detail on this robe from all angles. But look at all the great design work that's in the sleeves on the robe here. It's got like the sequins, just really nice intricate designs across it. I love the furry bit as well. That part's really great. You know, it looks just like the real thing, and I think especially from behind, that's where it really, really pops. I mean, I think this is the best robe that Mattel has ever done. Now, I was really fond of their Retrofest red version of Ric Flair, but this one here is just so much more to it. This has got to be the best robe they've ever made. That's saying a lot, because there's been a lot. I'll even say it's probably the best robe any pro wrestling toy company has done so far of Ric Flair, even including Jakks Pacific, and they did really wonderful work in their robes too. But this is bar none, just heads and shoulders above the rest. Just wow. So yeah, that's just really great. I'm going to leave this robe on for the rest of the review, I think, because it's just that good. But I think we got to keep this review going and do some figure comparisons. And I think I have to bring in the #1 figure you have to compare this to, but there's no comparison because she's a Flair above the rest. This is the Ultimate Edition Charlotte Flair figure. We looked at her not that long ago, a few months ago, I think, on this channel here. And I called her actually probably one of the best Ultimate Editions that had come out at that point as well, and I still think she is. What a great looking figure that is. And especially side by side with those robes on, I mean, this is just, cannot beat that. Look how good these two figures look side by side. Like, this is how they're meant to be displayed. So I remember on Bill McKeon's Instagram some time ago when he was talking about the design process for Charlotte's robe, someone asked him about Rick, and he had mentioned that his intent was to make them kind of have matching robes, and that is definitely the case here. I mean, these are definitely complementing each other very much. Let's give a little spin, in fact, so you can see them both from behind. I mean, yeah, these figures were meant to go together. Just excellent work. So cool seeing father and daughter side by side. Let's try a few other figures out next to him, and let's pull in this figure over here. This is NXT TakeOver Toronto Johnny Gargano figure. And a little bit closer to that time era, I've got myself a stunning Steve Austin figure. We reviewed this figure. We reviewed both these figures actually fairly recently on the channel, so make sure you check those all out. But yeah, that's how these guys all look side by side, and everybody matches up just fine height-wise. Now let's try a few figures from some other companies. I'm going to bring in an AEW Kenny Omega figure. We also recently looked at him, and it's a really nice looking figure. And the highly controversial Super 7 New Japan Pro Wrestling figure of Kazuchika Okada. Why is it controversial? Well, go watch any one of my many rants about these figures. My position on them has not really changed much. It's still kind of in the middle somewhere. Still excited for the next wave, but hey, that's going to be for a future video to talk about that. But yeah, just what a great time it is to be a wrestling fan, by the way, because you've got WWE figures from Mattel, AEW from Jazzwares, Super 7 from New Japan, and there's some other stuff coming out too, like Boss Fight Studio has something coming out. Cella Studios announced their own third-party line of 7-inch figures. So man, it's just such a good time to be a wrestling toy collector this year. So much happening, and even, you know, with the disappointments I had with some of the New Japan stuff, it's still just really exciting to have all these different figures coming out. And by the way, since we're going to talk about articulation here, I'm going to actually bring back in Austin here, so you guys can make sure, you guys know the articulation is very much more limited compared to these guys. The Jazzwares figures are definitely the closest to the amount of articulation you get here. The only difference, I think, is actually that the Ultimate Edition has the toe joint, whereas Kenny Omega does not. And then the Super 7 New Japan figures, well, they're just lacking kind of altogether. They're a little bit closer to like a Jax figure, but with the addition of this torso buck over here. Otherwise, it's not even a comparison in terms of articulation. So final thoughts on this Ultimate Edition figure. Well, if you've been collecting the Ultimate Editions, this is an absolute must-have. If you haven't been collecting them, what's wrong with you? This needs to be your first. It's one of the best, if not the best, Ric Flair figures out there, especially considering this is from that certain time period where there haven't really been a lot of figures of him. I think there's only been like 1 or 2 from Mattel before this, and that's including one of them that was wearing a suit before. So this is like such a good version of Ric Flair to have. The different heads are great. I love the Wooooo face as well. The hands are nice. Really the main attraction here though is that robe, and you got to get this robe. It's just such a good looking piece. I can keep raving all day about it, in fact, but I'm not going to. So take my word for it, get it just for that robe at the very least. And if you've been missing out on these figures, now's the time to jump in, because Series 9 is such a strong wave. Between this and the Austin figure, you can't go wrong with this one. If you want to pick up this version of Ric Flair, go ahead and check out some of our links in the description below, which will include spots for BBTS, Entertainment Earth, Ringside, Amazon, pretty much wherever we can find it, we're going to have links for it. So that's our look at Mattel's WWE Ultimate Edition Series 9 Ric Flair, representing his time from 1988 to about 1990, and specifically referencing his outfit from the Luger match at Wrestle War. Highly recommend it. Really, that doesn't even cut it. It's more than highly recommend. You got to have it now. Get it, or else I'm going to come to your house and put it in your hands. Smack you for not buying it sooner. So, I'm Matthew. This has been Nerd News Today, and thanks for watching.